That is James Stanley signing off, and some big thanks to James Stanley and James Well tonight for joining us. Really great to have them come on and talk politics as we see tonight. Let's take a break now and listen in to Democracy Now! And Amy Goodman, who's currently talking.
Eastern Standard Time.
And we're joined now by a roundtable of guests. Elie Mystal is with The Nation is with us. Araceli Jimenez with the Sunrise Movement is here in New York, as is the New Yorker's Masha Gessen. The Intercept's Lee Fong is with us in San Francisco, and here in New York, Kate Aronoff of The New Republic. So, Lee Fong, we were speaking to you just before Biden began his speech, and I'd like you to comment on what Biden said, and also, I mean, it was remarkable. He began his remarks by saying we're alive, almost as though that was part of the news. In other words, he's implicitly saying that, otherwise maybe his campaign was dead. And then something happened, obviously, in the last 3 days where things so massively turned around. So if you could talk about that. Earlier today, you tweeted, how do the There's No Such Thing as a Democratic Establishment people explain the coordinated actions of the last 2 days from every established interest in the Democratic Party? So, Lee, could you talk about that?
And, Lee, as you respond, CNN has just called Minnesota for Joe Biden as well.
Wow. Well, I think that goes to show, just 1 week ago, we had a consistent string of polls that showed that Bernie Sanders was leading in Minnesota. And it looks like, I think the kind of fair inference from that result is that Amy Klobuchar, senator from Minnesota, bowing out to endorse Biden, helped push him over the edge in that crucial state. And, it's not just the big donors. We know that Biden and his representatives have gone to these private meetings with the Democratic establishment to talk about how to figure out how to stop the momentum from Bernie Sanders. We know the New York Times reported that even Obama called Pete Buttigieg over the weekend and told him to exercise his maximum leverage in the party. And within 1 day of that call, he goes out to endorse Biden. There's been a huge effort to stop Biden. For Biden to cast himself as an underdog, someone who was completely counted out. He was certainly sagging in the polls earlier this year, but this is someone who's got a campaign staff by political professionals, Hollywood moguls, Wall Street executives, D.C. lobbyists are funding his campaign. He's got a massive super PAC, also organized by lobbyists. This is someone who's not, a traditional underdog. It's someone who actually comes from a lot of political power and has the resources to spend in many different states. And, we don't know what's going to happen in California, but a lot of these results seem to show that Biden has truly resuscitated his campaign. And, I think we'll finally see more of a focus on Biden's gaffes. He just started his remarks from just a moment ago, confusing his sister and his wife. And he was then stormed by an animal rights group, Direct Action Everywhere. It's actually based out here in the Bay Area, based in Berkeley. They stormed the stage. But, for Biden with a long history of gaffes, that's going to come into focus. Biden, in a way, benefited from Bloomberg getting into the race because a lot of the media criticism, the progressive criticism, Elizabeth Warren and Bernie kind of focusing their firepower on Bloomberg. Meanwhile, Biden was able to regain strength and catapult himself back into what appears to be the lead.
And we should also just clarify, and if you could do this for us, Lee Fong, just on the rules of these primaries, is that when we say that one of the candidates has won a state, it does not mean they've won all the delegates. The delegates at stake right now are 1,991, about a third of the delegates necessary. It's something like around 1,457 delegates. And when a candidate hits 1,991 delegates at the convention, then they have won. And so in all...
Yes, that's Amy Goodman talking to Lee Fong there on the Intercept Democracy Now! Live broadcast for Super Tuesday. I do want to get to this. Nathan J. Robinson on Twitter saying, really, map one is Sanders versus Biden. Victory is Biden purple. Map is what we see tonight, obviously. And likely Minnesota, Massachusetts, Colorado, Texas, and we see Utah coming in as well. Map 2 is if Warren had done what Amy and Pete did, dropped out and endorsed Bernie, and 3/4 of her supporters had listened. Repeat this all over the United States. Biden would be confined to the South were it not for the split progressive vote. So, according to this map by Nathan J. Robinson, editor of Current Affairs, she would have won. Bernie would have won Minnesota, Colorado, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Maine, Vermont, Massachusetts, and Biden would have been confined to the South. That would have been huge. That would have been huge. So it's going to be so interesting and so important to see what Elizabeth Warren does from here on out, and what role she takes in campaigning for Bernie Sanders, whether it's going to be active or whether it's not going to be, because that could be all the difference today. So it could have made a massive difference. So yeah, Maine right now, Bernie Sanders up by 0.8. Is it right now? Yeah. It is definitely, yeah. After he was in, I think Li Fong, though, said, it is interesting the fact that the Biden, the Klobuchar effect of Amy Klobuchar putting him over the edge. Amy Klobuchar probably did pretty well in that state with the early vote. No, she's in the top 4. But yeah, Joe Biden on top in that state. It's a big blow to Bernie Sanders, and Bernie Sanders would have won absolutely if Elizabeth Warren would have come out and campaigned for him. So huge blow there. When I say over and over again, this is Nathan J. Robinson, that Warren is going to hand by the nomination, this is what I mean. If she was campaigning on from Bernie right now instead of attacking him constantly, yeah, again, it's not like she's just sitting by and doing nothing. She is constantly attacking him. Well, Bernie refuses to say a bad word about him, because if he does, it's going to be attacked with the Bernie bros and all that crap. But this race would look totally different. Importantly, Map 2 caused a totally different media narrative, which would have snowballing effects. Instead of the headline we're going to see, Biden surges to victory across the country, it would be Biden struggles to succeed outside South, Sanders holds frontrunner status. Now, bear in mind, these results could change. Sanders-Biden margin increase, states flip. I made these earlier in the night, but the point is, Warren is doing so much damage. The reason Obama had to call Amy Pete is they knew how much damage vote splitting does. And yeah, maybe somebody should call Elizabeth Warren, because that's just the reality of what we're there. So it's Li Fong giving some pretty much needed insight. So, and Nathan Robinson playing a big role, but maybe 3/4 is too rosy, but I don't know. Pull up that second choice, Elizabeth Warren, second choice of supporters. Yeah. It's really big. Let's see, January 28th, 2020. Yeah. Warren. We don't see that yet. But anyway, I'm just trying to pull that up. Look set to split supporters. All right, I'm gonna try and pull this back up here. Second choice. All right, here we go. Elizabeth Warren, second choice supporters. Bernie Sanders, 40%. So yeah, 3/4 of Bernie, so 40%, Joe Biden, Pete Buttigieg, Amy Klobuchar split 16%. Joe Biden and Pete Buttigieg have 16% and Amy Klobuchar 12%. That doesn't add up to total, but I mean, 3/4 may be a little bit too rosy, but the fact that this is even a question, I mean, it can't be that much less. I mean, it's got to be at least half. It is really incredible and really important. So I do want to get to this article again by the legend himself, Nathan J. Robinson. Yeah, and he's writing these things out. I think it's very, very important. These are some very important facts. He says, I feel like I'm going crazy. I have a pit of terror in my stomach that never goes away. I'm stressed and afraid at every moment. To me, a set of facts about the world is difficult to deny. If Donald Trump is reelected in November, very bad things will happen to a large number of people. Climate change will worsen. The brutalization of immigrants will escalate, with dementia patients and diabetics deported to their deaths. Workplace safety and labor protection will be gutted. Public assets from the national parks to the postal service will be sold off to corporations. A global arms race will intensify, possibly with civilization-ending weapons placed in outer space, waiting to destroy us at a moment's notice. To stop these things from happening, we have exactly one chance on exactly one day, November 3rd, 2020. On that day, something extremely difficult will be done. Well over 60 million people must be motivated enough to put aside whatever else they're doing in their lives to go to polling stations all across the country and cast ballots. Donald Trump will do whatever it possibly takes to prevent this from happening. He's a colossal amount of money. He's ruthless. He'll say anything. He'll do anything. He'll attack candidates from the left if he has to. He'll mock their physical appearance. He'll lie about them shamelessly. And he's the most powerful man in the world. He has triple advantages of incumbency, low unemployment, and a relatively alright approval rating, at least for his standards. It will be incredibly difficult for anybody to beat him. The Democratic Party establishment, meaning the people who have been in leadership positions in the party, does not actually understand Trump. They don't see why his message is appealing. They don't understand how talented he is. They think he's stupid. They don't know why he thrives. They don't understand why they're failing to effectively oppose him. When his approval ratings rise, it mystifies them. When nobody comes to their rallies, they don't know why. They didn't know what was going on in 2016. When their own message was totally out of touch with the ordinary people's concerns, they will not admit that his State of the Union address was terrifyingly effective. They think that pointing out that Trump is a liar and a cad, they can hurt him. Even in a concerningly out of touch and inept party, Joe Biden stands out as uniquely out of touch and inept. It's not just that he seems mentally not that with it, but that he fundamentally can't organize people, can't inspire them. In fact, Biden's political instincts are atrocious. He constantly tells Iowa voters to go vote for someone else, and 85% of them did. He tells millennials he has no empathy for them, so yeah, good luck getting those people out to vote. He promises no change. He's a serial liar that fabricates absurd details about his life story, like fictitious arrests and a false history of civil rights activism. The only other candidate that Joe Biden, other than Joe Biden, who has a viable chance of the Democratic nomination is Bernie Sanders. This is almost universally accepted between the two of them. Bernie Sanders is the only one with even a chance of beating Donald Trump. As in 2016, Bernie is different from the other Democrats in that he knows how to speak to Trump's own voters. Not only does he beat Trump consistently in head-to-head polling, but he offers ordinary people an ambitious social democratic agenda that is designed to deal with their real-world problems. He has decades-long record of fighting hard for them to get health care, decent wages, and family leave. He has waged an often lonely struggle on behalf of those whose interests are too frequently ignored in Washington, even taking on Obama and the administration over cuts to Social Security. When Bernie tells working people that he is in their corner, they can believe him because he's acted on the same clear set of values for decades. Plus, Bernie supporters are motivated. They go out and knock on doors for him in the cold. They'll do whatever it takes for him. And on the flip side, if Joe Biden was nominated, millions of them would probably not only decline to put on the same level of organizing energy, they just simply stay home unwilling to assist a candidate who has made it clear that he has no empathy for them. Many wealthy and powerful Democrats will do whatever it takes to stop Bernie Sanders from being the nominee. This means that they will do whatever it takes to make sure that Joe Biden is the nominee. Already, Pete and Amy Klobuchar have dropped out and thrown their support behind Biden. Barack Obama has apparently sent the signal to Democrats they need to come together behind Biden. Some Democrats even appear to be funneling money to supporting Elizabeth Warren's campaign through her super PAC, by the way. Okay, I'm pausing for a second, but how outrageous. I just keep at different points tonight. I have been absolutely flabbergasted by the insane amounts of hypocrisy, stupidity, and just selfishness and cravenness in this campaign. This is somebody who has made her entire career off of being a left-wing, progressive person who is focused about being economically populist and trying to get the right shit done. But what does she do? She comes out, endorses, or she hasn't endorsed anyone yet, still stays in the race, gets a super PAC. A super PAC! Literally gets a super PAC. Comes third in her own state and still refuses to drop out and endorse Bernie when it comes absolutely clear she has no support for the nomination. Like, the only reason people are putting money in the super PAC, as Nathan Robinson implies here, is to stop Bernie Sanders because they know she's going to be the one to stop Bernie Sanders. Why do you think she set up the super PAC if she was planning on dropping out of the race and supporting Bernie Sanders? She did this like a week ago. She literally did this a week ago when it comes to reversing her super PAC power.